All right, good morning everyone. Welcome to ZertoCON. Thank you for being here. I'm Derek Adair, Field Cloud Architect. I've spent the past year working with Kim Starbranch and a number of others, onboarding CSPs, delivering the messaging of Zerto to prospective CSPs, as well as working with existing CSPs, building out their businesses, understanding the value of what Zerto can do in the cloud. And I'm here today basically to deliver some of that messaging that I've been delivering so that you all can understand what's happening in the clouds, what's Zerto enabling, what can you now do with your business, what can you do as an end user, what can you do as a partner, what can you do in the public cloud. So we're going to discuss all those things. So let's look at the cloud basics. Is this your bird's eye view of the cloud? Head in the sand, ignoring everything that's going on? Is that your partner's view? A lot of partners are still trying to push 2 storage arrays on you, matching at 2 different sites, propping up 2 different locations. It's very expensive these days to run your own DR as an end user. We have economies of scale in the cloud. So if you have a partner that's not showing you the options in the cloud, whether that's a CSP, whether that's in the public cloud, whether that's in your own private cloud environment, then you're going to want to find someone like a Zerto CSP that is going to be able to help you and go shoulder to shoulder with you into the cloud. So everyone's talking about cloud, and we know that, right? How are we going to ensure workload mobility and protection within a multi-cloud environment? So multi-cloud is something that has come along relatively recently. It's more, I would say, than marketing buzz. I would say it's a philosophy of how you're going to protect your data, being able to move seamlessly between clouds, being able to give value and performance to your workloads and applications on an as-needed basis. Changing and evolving application and architecture strategies. Things are different in the cloud, right? It's not on-prem. So there are certain things that you will need to do to change the way that you have your system set up, perhaps, and you need to be ready to do the hard work that comes with that if you're not going cloud native and you're actually forklifting into the cloud. And then how should we change our data center and infrastructure approach to ensure IT resilience? So that's why we're all here, right? This is why we're at ZertoCON 2018. We're talking about IT resilience. We're talking about what protects our data, where we can put it, how we can move it seamlessly. And IT resilience has become a message that we're going to see pushed down from the board level. We're going to see it pushed down from the CXO level. It's about this multi-cloud design and being able to understand where your workloads are, having one single interface to be able to know where all your data is in the world. So what are enterprises seeing for value in adopting the hybrid cloud? Well, it's all the things that we've been promised for the past decade about the cloud, right? We have expected all these great things. We were promised all these great things back in the mid-2000s. They really haven't come to fruition until relatively recently, right? Resource elasticity, limitless scale-out capability, we have those things and we've had those things. Cost efficiency, really that hasn't been something that we've talked about too much in the cloud, in the public cloud. It's been a little bit difficult for some people. There was some sticker shock in the cloud at first. I think if you look back to Q3 last year when we released Failback from Azure, I think we started to see a lot more confidence from the market, a lot more people willing to dip their toe into the public cloud, and I think you see that bear out in the numbers for Azure and how well they did in Q4. Now that you can come out of the cloud easily, it's more of, well, it's less of an adventure to go into the cloud, right? And there's less guesswork because you know when you get in there that if it's not what you thought it was, you can migrate back out. So if we look at some of the metrics, by 2020, over 90% of enterprises will use multiple cloud services and platforms. You know, I would say in many regards, whether it's shadow IT or not, nearly every company is using some type of multiple cloud services, whether that's Box or whatever the case may be. But everyone's involved in cloud in some way, shape, or form at every level of every company. And then you can see that Gartner predicts that by 2019, an estimated 70% of enterprises will have a hybrid cloud strategy. Now, I would say that the people that are working with everyone that's in this room, I think that's going to be 100%, right? Zerto enables hybrid cloud strategy. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So what is hybrid cloud? So we're essentially, in a lot of cases, pairing your on-prem site to some sort of DRaaS cloud, whether that's a Zerto CSP, that can be public cloud. We're giving you the capability to use economies of scale in your DR plan. It's extremely expensive to have that second DR site. If you're looking at what people have been doing over the past 5 years, where you're taking your storage at the end of a 3 or 5 year maintenance period and moving that to the DR site and replicating to that, that's been a good strategy. But a better strategy now is that when that second array comes up for a refresh, we're moving that DRaaS into the cloud. And we're giving ourselves a much lower cost. We're giving ourselves an OpEx model. And this is enabling our business and our business owners to focus on other things other than DR, right? It's not something that you want full-time employees necessarily spending a lot of time on, right? Unless there's an actual emergency or some need for downtime. So why are we using a hybrid cloud strategy? We want to leverage on-site resources in the public clouds seamlessly, right? We want to be able to move between our on-prem to a Zerto CSP, to Azure, to AWS, to IBM Cloud. So we're able to easily respond to changing business requirements. We're able to pivot on a dime. And then we're also using internal private cloud environments for testing, for secure workloads, backup disaster recovery as the organization allows. So this hybrid cloud strategy is really giving you the capability to save money and enable a better business model. Multi-cloud. Now this is something that has come along. It's relatively new. It's a relatively new idea. You all are going out into the market and shaping this for customers, right? This is cutting edge. Zerto's constantly enabling with every new release some market-breaking feature, right? We saw failover to AWS in 4.5. We saw failover to Azure in 5.0. We failed back from Azure in 5.5. We failed back from AWS in 6.0. So every release, the market changes, right? You have to go out and recreate what you're doing in a lot of ways, because there's more ways to create your business to be able to have more resiliency. And there's more ways for CSPs to be able to offer services to their customers and create additional revenue streams. So this multi-cloud is essentially the capability to move data and workloads in, out, and between more than one cloud with full orchestration and automation. So if that's, you want to change hypervisors, as long as it's one of the 2 best hypervisors in the world. If you want to change clouds, you have that capability. You can do so seamlessly. So we're putting workloads where they belong. We're putting applications and giving them the level of service they deserve. Why are we using a multi-cloud strategy? Well, you want to be able to work seamlessly across cloud providers. You want to distribute your services workloads across platforms for optimized performance. So that is really the biggest message, I think. When you look back 5 years and how we were tiering disks, we had our flash tier, we had our nearline tier, we had our SaaS tier. Well, now we're doing that with clouds. We're not all on-prem anymore. We're starting to move into the cloud. We're seeing that there's different value propositions for each of the clouds. You have over 400 Zerto CSPs that each have a different value proposition. You have the public clouds. You have your own on-prem. And being able to move your applications to the place that they need so that you can get the best value and the lowest cost, if that's what you desire, or if you want the greatest performance, you can have either of those. And then you can have anything in between. Everything in between is in play. Zerto is enabling you to have the ultimate in flexibility, to be able to make choices that you've never had before. You've always been pinned to your infrastructure. You've had that year where you're 2 years and 10 months into your storage array and you're on your knees. Well, we're moving into the cloud now. We're not having that problem anymore. We're getting the optimized workload in every situation. So that's taking advantage of the cost efficiencies, right? When you're doing DR on your own, you're paying for everything. When you're doing DR with others, you're getting economies of scale. And then probably the most important message, and I think what Zerto's really driven home, is you're avoiding vendor lock-in. Storage array lock-in, hypervisor lock-in, cloud lock-in. You're empowered. When you have all your data in multiple clouds and multiple hypervisors, you have all the leverage with your vendors. We're in a place that we've never been before. We have the power as the end user, as a CSP, using Zerto to be able to perform all these tasks. So what are the considerations when choosing a strategy? I know this is a little bit of an eye chart, but these are all very important concepts, and I am going to walk through them. So upfront investment obviously is something that you're going to want to keep in mind. What are you willing to pay up front? Do you want to stand up a second site? Do you want to stand everything up associated with that? Or do you want to use a cloud? Do you want economies of scale? Do you want CapEx or do you want OpEx? The quantity of data obviously is important. How much data are you going to store in the cloud? You're getting a cost per gig, so some of your larger workloads, those may stay on-prem, depending. Longevity of data. How long do you need to store your data? What are your requirements? What are your industry requirements? HIPAA, SOX, PCI, what is it? That will help you decide how long you need to store the data, store your data sets. What are your performance requirements? It's essential that you are measuring your workloads before you put them into the cloud, and you understand how they're going to behave and how they're going to perform, and you want to test them. Access patterns and locations. So depending on where you are in the world, where are your customers in the world? What type of partner are you going to choose if you're globally distributed? I think that's obvious. Security and confidentiality. So when you look at Zerto, we're not a threat prevention tool, but we are a threat mitigation tool, and we can restore from ransomware. And if you look at what ransomware has been over the past 2 years, it's growing exponentially. And this is becoming a tremendous use case for Zerto. We received numerous awards last year as the best solution for ransomware, and being able to recover from a ransomware attack. You take, for example, we had a CSP in January. On January 12th, they had a customer that was going to come on board, and they pushed to the 29th. On the 28th, they got hit with ransomware. So the day before they were about to go onto the cloud, go onto Zerto, they got hit with ransomware. If you remember back in January, Bitcoin was around $14,000. So they were looking at a $45,000 Bitcoin bill to be able to restore their data. Now, 2 years ago, when Bitcoin was a lower cost, it was probably $350 that ransom was. Probably could pull out your credit card, not tell anyone, and restore that data. Well, if it's $45,000, I don't know anyone that's just sitting on that's going to wire that out. So that goes up to the CXO level. All of a sudden, there's a lot of questions being asked. It might be a resume generating event. With Zerto, your return on investment using it once for ransomware will pay for itself many times over. It's a huge value proposition. The other important thing is service level agreements. So uptime, what are the potentials for public cloud versus some other private cloud? What are outages going to do to your business without Zerto? And then in-house technical resources. So this is a great one. I obviously work with the CSPs, as I've mentioned a number of times. Having someone to go shoulder to shoulder into the cloud with you to be able to analyze your workloads, give you insight into your data and workloads that you may not have, it becomes a very valuable proposition even when you're just measuring out what you're going to do in the cloud. So getting started with cloud, these are some of the potential use cases we're looking at before we even get to public cloud. So we have customer A there in a DRaaS situation. So you have a cloud provider that is handling your protected site, taking all your workload onto their site. We have the ability to do migrations with Zerto. It's one of the best features that we have in terms of ease of use. If you remember what migrations used to be and how long they took, get a few quotes from people that have worked it. They're right out there. It's tremendously simple, tremendously easy to do migrations now. And there have been occasions where customers have gone into the cloud with DRaaS, done a failover into the cloud, and then they realize once they get there that, wow, my environment's performing so much better here. Why don't we keep it there and we'll do reverse DRaaS and we'll have it land on our spot which is actually going to be customer B, we're going to have it land there for recovery. So recovery on-prem, workload in the cloud. So there's so many options and capabilities that we're talking about when we're talking about Zerto. It really comes down to how are we going to design this for your business? And having a partner to do that makes it not a 7th grade science fair experiment. It makes it something that is done professionally with people that are doing this every day. Additionally, we have in-cloud BCDR, so that would be a situation where you're with a CSP and you have both production and DR in that cloud. So when you reach, you dip your toe with the DRAS, maybe the reverse DRAS, and then when you reach that point where you've reached a level of trust with your partner, then you can bring all your production workload into their cloud and their DR into the cloud, and then protect to multi-clouds from there. So let's talk about multi-cloud agility with Zerto. What are we offering here? We have the migrations that we talked about a little bit, the migration between public clouds, so that's been enabled in 6.0. Anyone that's on 6.0 at all sites is going to be able to migrate between AWS and Azure. That's a tremendous feature that's come along. It's going to relieve a lot of pain for a lot of people that didn't have a way out. Migration to the public cloud. We're seeing a lot of enterprises move into CSPs and the public cloud. So we all knew that this time would come. We all knew this moment was coming in the market. I think it's happened a lot slower than people thought it was, but it is starting to happen at a much larger clip now. And then once we're migrated in, the other great thing is just being able to test the application within those platforms before we actually do the migration, right? So we do a test failover, we make sure everything's working, everything comes up properly, and then we can go ahead and perform the actual failover. And then when you look at the value proposition all along for Zerto, the automation and orchestration, right? We're doing file level recovery from the journal. I think that's a feature that's underutilized and maybe not talked about enough. The ability to go in and just pull a file or folder from any time within the journal, restore that, and send it out to wherever it needs to go. Automatic conversion of VMs, so whether we're converting to Azure, AWS, from VMware to Hyper-V, Hyper-V to VMware, whatever it is, we're converting that for you. It's done automatically, it's done on the fly. If you just go back 5 years and think about what we're doing and what it means, it's extremely valuable. It's pretty mind-boggling. The capabilities and features that we've unlocked over the past period of time that we just talked about, and then additionally that one single user interface that I'll talk about momentarily. So multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, right? It's not about multiple clouds. It's about the freedom to be able to go between clouds. So you can see here, we're going from private to public. We're going from private to hybrid. We can go from public back to private, hybrid to public, public to private, hybrid to private. So just unlocking a tremendous amount of capabilities and features and functionality from all these different locations. So you're not really ever going to be stuck anywhere again. And you're going to be able to choose the place that you want your workloads to land. And we've been talking about servicing the application at the application level forever now. And this is real now. We can actually give our applications the performance, the value, and we can find that perfect tweak of in between, and we can leverage all these different sites to be able to do that. So in this particular case, you see that hybrid cloud can be, it could be a second private cloud location, of course, but it can also be a Zerto CSP. And that can enable you to get to the public cloud if you're not quite there yet or you don't know how you're going to do it. Speak to someone that's going to actually know how to do it, does it every day, and can guide you. So this is the any-to-any, right? We've been talking any-to-any for a number of years now. Being able to switch hypervisors on the fly is an incredible feature. Being able to switch between clouds is now an incredible feature. We're basically unlocking the future with every release. So we are now enabling on-prem to go to Azure, to go to AWS, to go to IBM Cloud, any of our 350 plus, now 400 plus CSPs. We can also go between Azure and Azure, IBM Cloud and IBM Cloud, Zerto CSP and CSP. So the capabilities and the features that we've unlocked, the different destinations. These are the best destinations in the world. These are the best hypervisors. These are the best public clouds. You're able to move in and out seamlessly, and the conversions are done for you automatically. So let's take it a step further, right? We have the one-to-many feature that people now know and love, and the capability to be able to move one single VM from one location in 3 separate VPGs to 3 separate locations. So we're taking the 3-2-1 rule and we're kicking it out, and we're going to have 3 locations of our production data fully restorable in 3 different places. So when you have a situation like we did last fall, where you had a parking lot full of hurricanes coming up the East Coast, and you had someone with a data center in Miami and a data center in Atlanta, and that was their 2 data centers, and there was going to be a hurricane over both of them in a week, that's when you can proactively move your data, right? You can move to that 3rd location that's in a separate geo, right? So that you don't have to deal with a disaster. You can proactively avoid that disaster. So that's what we're talking about now. We're not just talking about disaster avoidance. We're talking about being able to proactively, ahead of time, avoid the disasters. We are talking about disaster avoidance. I misspoke. So we are able to have the hybrid cloud, the multi-cloud, being able to take those VMs from one location to any of those other 3 locations. We can also enable local replication. So then with that, we can keep a small journal on site. We can do journal file level restore from on-prem. And that is a tremendous capability to put in the power of the hands of an admin to be able to restore those files quickly. So any-to-any going to Azure. We have enabled in 6.0 replication and automation within Azure with VNet peering. So we're able to replicate within Azure. As long as I've been at Zerto, I had heard people asking for that. It now enables you, as someone that's in Azure, to have protection in the public cloud. You can bring that protection from the public cloud down to on-prem, and you can have replication and automation between all those things. And then, we have new Azure regions that have come along, which includes Azure Government, which is seeing tremendous traction now, and then Germany, and if you want to give your data to the Chinese government, China. IBM Cloud, so there will be a session on IBM Cloud. Look for that on your schedules. It'll go dive deeply into it. The number of capabilities that IBM Cloud has is pretty incredible. I've seen the roster of services they have, but they're enabling replication and automation as well between their clouds from your on-prem. It's one-to-many. It's bi-directional, just like all the others. So you're looking at just an additional amazing landing spot for your data and an additional potential partner. And then any-to-any for AWS. So we're not yet replicating within AWS, but we are replicating to and from AWS. So the Hotel California story that we've been hearing for the past 5 to 10 years, that's kind of out the door now. We can get you out of AWS simply and easily, quickly. You still have to pay to get out, don't get me wrong, but you might not need as many professional services to do so now that you have Zerto. Okay, so intra-cloud. This is the one that came along in 6.0. I did not see this coming. I did not think that this would be something that anyone would do, but replicating between Azure and AWS, I think this is a great use case right now for migrations. We're starting to see customers, CSPs, building services around Azure and AWS so that they're offering not only their cloud, they're also offering pathways to Azure, to AWS, so that you have freedom of choice. This inter-cloud, we can do that with Azure. Intra-cloud, we can do with Azure. Inter-cloud, we do Azure, AWS. So multi-site and multi-tenancy. This is what makes our CSP program so great. This is what makes going into the public cloud so great. We're talking about any distance, so we're anywhere in the world. We don't have strict latency requirements. We can do multi-data center replication. We can have any number of sites. We can protect multiple satellite offices. We can do data center consolidation and protection. So when a customer comes to us and wants to consolidate 21 data centers down to 8, we help them with that. And the savings there are tremendous. And I think that we're seeing a lot more of those opportunities out there, right? Because there's a lot of acquisitions happening in the market right now. There's a lot of consolidation. And to be able to migrate those workloads seamlessly, it presents tremendous value to people in that situation. So it's flexible, cost-effective, and scalable. We're talking about DR as a service, also managed service and recovery. So these are, some of the capabilities that you'll see from our partners. And then the shared service architecture, right? We have our Zerto Cloud Manager, we have our Z-orgs, we have our Zerto Cloud connectors. These are all giving multi-tenancy so that customers aren't seeing other customers' complement of resources. They're not seeing the full complement of resources that are available in the CSP. So you are siloed, built on top of hypervisor resource pools, org VDCs, and then these app owners, organizations, and customers are getting all the value, all the economies of scale. When you start sharing DR with other end users, then your price starts to drop. So it's common sense. It's why so many customers are getting out of that second site DR, and it's got to be right for your business, right? So you have to measure out your environment, you have to make the financial decisions that are going to help you, to decide which way is the right way to go. But there's more options now than there ever have been. And then multiple clouds with one interface. So we have a very simple to use GUI. It's tiled, it's beautiful, and there's only one. So you don't get a bag of doorknobs with a different doorknob for each platform, for each hypervisor. We have this one interface. And if you think about what the what everything is under the covers, it's just network storage and compute, and everyone just has a different fancy name for it, right? So everything's in the same place. When you're going to create a VPG, storage networking, it just has different names, but everything's in the same place. So someone that is a VMware to VMware administrator that now is suddenly told that, oh, we're also going to be going to Azure, we're also going to be going to AWS. We don't need to send them to school to learn Azure and AWS, right? With just a little bit of training in the Zerto University, you're going to be able to go in, you're going to be able to figure this out very easily, and it makes it so that you can be an IT generalist and still manage this environment. So extremely powerful tool to be able to allow anyone, any man, any woman, to be able to manage this and do so from many different places. So protecting, transforming, and innovating, this is what Zerto is all about right now, is IT resilience. And protecting, transforming, and innovating gives us all these strong use cases. We have our three pillars, right? Continuous availability. Customers are not going to accept anything less than continuous availability now, right down to the SMB level. It's come all the way down. It was enterprise. Now everyone wants it, right? So nobody wants the outages and disruptions. We're trying to protect against that, obviously. The ransomware attacks, which I referenced, unbelievable use case. I mean, people are pretty excited when they understand what Zerto can do against a ransomware attack. We've had customers that have been attacked up to 4 times and recovered each time. They might need a better threat prevention tool, but they have the best threat mitigation tool, and they're able to restore. Complete data protection. So I think we're going to start seeing Zerto for entire sites. So it's not just going to be mission critical, it's going to be entire sites that are on Zerto so that you can have complete data protection. We'll also see on the next slide the analytics across clouds that will enable. Workload mobility, so being able to move applications, being able to move sites, VMs, VPGs, whatever the case may be. We can do that. Consolidations and migrations, we talked about that. We can do that. Testing and DevOps, this is a great use case. So we can do dev refresh, we can spin up a SQL server with an offsite clone, we can do it in a test bubble, whatever the case may be. Customers have the ability now to go in and work on production environments that are spun up specifically for them. They can do patching, testing, anything that you would want to do in production that you never should. You can do that in the bubble. You can do that on an offsite clone and test it out. Make sure everything's okay before you bring it into production. And then we have kind of the newest, latest and greatest, multi-cloud agility. So multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, that is really what people are going to be talking about for the next 2 years at a minimum, right? Is this ability to put applications and workloads in the right place at the right size. And then analytics across clouds. I think this becomes really one of the most important features of Zerto over the next couple of years. We have Lee Kaminsky, we have a product manager specifically who works only on analytics. He's been delivering value into the analytics portal release after release. And essentially in 6.0, we're able to get network information, right? So we're going to empower intelligence-led transformation. So basically we're giving you actionable data that you can use to check out the pipe, understand what the VPGs are doing, understand what the VMs are doing, and make changes that are necessary, whether it's at the VPG level, whether you want to do that at the VM level, that's your prerogative. So we can view protection and consumption data across multi-site, multi-cloud environments. If you put all your data centers on Zerto, you are going to have one single pane of glass to be able to view everything. People right now see that as a holy grail, right? That ability to be able to monitor your cloud environments from one single pane of glass. So if all your environments are on Zerto, you know where everything is, you know where it's coming from, you know where it's protected to, and you have it from that single pane of glass. So then you're also getting aggregated and consolidated information from multiple ZVMs, so that can be about RPO, so your recovery point objectives. That can be about the journal. So we've just added network, and we're also building out the APIs, the REST APIs for managing analytics as well. So we can create reports using those APIs that we can have sent off to stakeholders, to customers, whatever the case may be. And I think you're going to hear some announcements around analytics at ZertoCON here. And I think you're going to see that this is going to become a tool that really has its own value and could stand on its own. And I think if you look at Zerto as a whole, over the past 10, 15 years, there's got to be about 10 or 20 point products that are built into Zerto, things that used to stand alone that we have brought in, and things that might have been point products in the past that we've built into the product, and it's just there for you. It's in the cost. There's not an add-on for this and an add-on for that, and an add-on for this and an add-on for that. This is all getting built into the product every release. So this is more to that message of end-to-end security, viewing the protection across all the clouds. It's a SaaS-driven platform, and this is enabling you to get multi-site, multi-cloud. So we have the iOS, Android app. We can see our sites on a tablet, on a phone. We can check it before we go to bed. We can check it, first thing Monday morning when we wake up, make sure everything's okay. And then we also have the online portal that gives you even additional features and capabilities. And then we have the IT resilience bunch. So this is our 9 use cases. Currently, I think we've identified 16 personally among us. We'll roll those out at a later date. But we can see outages and disruptions, cloud integration and migration, infrastructure modernization. You can read the rest. These are all the value propositions that Zerto gives us. All the capabilities. We're talking about multi-cloud and IT resilience. This is the messaging. All right, so we want customers to be able to go out and be where they want to be with their data and not locked in. All right, they have the leverage now with Zerto, with their vendors, because they can go anywhere. It's not, I'm stuck with you for another 5 years. This is the commitment I made. My array's on its knees, but this is what we have. No, we can't do that this year, maybe next year. That's not the way it is anymore. It's what do we want to do now to improve our business now? And the answer to that is Zerto. So this session's part of the Zerto Azure Specialist Certification. If you're doing the certification, enter fly into cloud in the test on Zerto University to receive credit for this session. And then I believe this is the next session that might be right here in this room. Yep, it sure is, with my counterpart, Mike Nelson. So we have that as well. We also have a ZCP cloud available in Zerto University. That is new. If you're interested in the cloud and how we do it, how we handle multi-tenancy, that's a great place to start. It's micro-learning, so we're not going to bury you with 45 minutes straight of one person droning on. It's quick 3-minute hits, so it's very useful, very valuable. So tell us what you think. Open the ZertoCON mobile app, select the schedule, find the session, and take the session survey. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. Enjoy ZertoCON.